smart energy to fast track, to push a growth in a region like this, for example. And so that's ultimately what I was trying to do, okay? So yes, exactly, diversity, that's not what was coming out, but diversity actually matters much more than size. This means that the diversity of your productive capacity, the diversity of the productive capacity of a country or a city or a region matters way more than size, okay? So that means that in terms of Scrabble, which is the, as I was saying, the visual metaphor that Hausman uses in a formidable piece of work, a piece of research that took several years to put together, which is the Atlas of Economic Complexity. And I definitely recommend that you look at that afterwards. So that's Hausman and the Atlas of Economic Complexity. Essentially, the more letters, the more capabilities. This is what this is trying to say, is that the more letters, the more capabilities that your city, your town, your region, your country has, the more diverse and complex products or services you're going to be able to make. And that is essentially what, that's what makes the difference. So if you're trying to compete, if you're trying to grow as a region, whether you're low density or high density, where you have to put the emphasis is on the diversity of your productive capacity, okay, your production capacity. This is the ability to make more diverse and complex products and services. Are you following me? Okay. Thank you for bearing with me, by the way. It serves me right. Okay, so how does a country get more letters? So where do you get your letters from? Where do you get your capabilities from? In a region or a city, like in a city, small city like Mirandela, in the northeast of Portugal, when you don't have all the letters that you need, right, to diversify and grow, where do you get it from? Well, what I'm here to talk about is smart energy, and in terms of the dual challenge that we're all facing, which is in the face of global change, global climate change, and soaring of fossil fuel prices, it's the very imperative to decarbonize the economy competitively. That can be turned into a formidable driver of product diversification and sophistication. So I've mentioned here three very important forces that can act as catalysts, okay? That being demand, consumers, and carbon. Demand has been shrinking. Demand for electricity has been shrinking, and this is turning the energy industry on its head. The reason why demand is shrinking is because we're getting better at getting what we need out of electricity. Our domestic appliances, our light bulbs, our heaters, our boilers are far more energy efficient, and our buildings, our newer buildings are better isolated. Again, this is a force. This is a force of change. This is a catalyst for greater innovation, for greater growth, okay? That's demand. Consumers, changing consumer roles. That's also another force of, that's also a very important, powerful force of growth. There are specialized companies that are helping people to generate their own electricity, to generate and store their own electricity, and to manage and time shift its use. But perhaps one of the most interesting sources of accelerating innovation and growth and diversification in a region like northeast Portugal is removing carbon from the power system. That's where approximately 40% of the carbon is, and where many of the most interesting economic opportunities can be found. And that's what brings me to Portugal at large. My understanding of the state of renewables is that here in Portugal, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is that you've got a very favorable policy and regulatory environment created by the fact that the very shift of Portugal's reliance on the shift of reliance from fossil fueled electricity to renewables, that in itself that offers tremendous competitive advantage in the global smart energy market. In that it can turn Portugal into a green hotbed of, again, increasingly more complex, increasingly diverse and more complex goods and services that enable two-way flows of energy, information, and revenue. That's in terms of again what I was saying earlier on, was that's in terms of where you can get these letters from. These letters are capabilities. This is just a way of thinking about how things work. So it's building up the capacity. It's building up the capacity to build ever more complex products and services. And that basically what I'm saying here, what this illustrates, is that it is a multitude of massive multitude of teams and networks, all experimenting, running experiments at the same time to address all the various pieces of the energy puzzle. When I talk about smart energy systems, this is what I understand a smart energy system to be, which is it's the overlap of three grids: electric, thermal, and ICT. One example of this type of experimentation is a smart biomass workshop. There's three things I'd like you to take away from this and kind of follow up on, which is, again, the atlas of economic complexity. It's by adding new capabilities. It's by adding new activities to the economy that a region will actually grow. A city, a region, or a country will actually grow. And that's where I think the challenge is for Mirandela, for Braganza, and for northeast Portugal. I don't agree with the focus on tourism. I think that the only way that you are going to grow is by adding ever more sophisticated activities and ever more sophisticated sets of skills to the economy. And essentially what I'm saying is that smart energy can do that. And Portugal is actually at an advantage because I think you depend on your electricity comes from about 58% of your electricity comes from renewable sources, right? This is turbine and solar, essentially. Okay, you already have a base of know-how from which to begin to develop more, or say newer, smarter energy systems. And when I say newer, smarter energy systems, of course, I'm talking about the integration of ICT to maximize the integration of renewable energies and minimize carbon emissions and the overall use of energy. So that's one thought. So the complexity of your economy, the complexity of your economy here in this region. The more complex, the more competitive, and the faster you will grow. If you only focus on tourism, I cannot see how you can grow I can't see how you can grow in the terms that you need. And when two interesting ways of creating the critical mass that you need here, of all those pieces of knowledge that you don't have, is either by creating the measures to attract people who know to places that don't know. And Startup Chile is a very interesting example. It was a very high risk and very interesting and very successful example of how to take the necessary policy measures to attract people who know or the pieces of knowledge that you need to the region. But also, you don't need to be able to build these systems. You don't necessarily need people to be physically here. Communication technologies are well advanced, and perhaps the only thing that you know that you need to learn how to do is to participate in global energy value chains. It's the ability to build and produce and co-create without leaving your workstations, without other people leaving their workstations, and that is one way of transferring the type of know-how that you need. Again, smart biomass is an example of a process that's engineered to put wheels. It's a way to fast track the integration of all the different pieces of the smart energy system in order to produce tangible pilot ideas and begin to form the types of alliances that you need to put these to activate these systems. And another thing is that, and this is the last, is that smart energy systems, smart integrated energy systems, they actually need, for the first time ever, they actually need, it's a highly collaborative endeavor. It is actually, it's piecing together many pieces of, many letters of the Scrabble letters that are not, they're not inside one single big company. This is the difference, and this is the opportunity. This is the source of opportunity, and it's not only the end product. It's not only the smart energy system. It's really about the skills, the complex skills that you acquire. For example, in this region, in developing these smart energy systems. And with that, I won't take up more of your time. I'm very sorry, but again, this is actually very interesting, and so is Ricardo Hausmann, and very relevant, I think, for development here in the region. Thank you very, very much.